Vedanta Shastram also means, because what I have said before, therefore also I'm saying, helps us understand our problem. What is a human problem? The human problem is otherwise called samsaraha. When you say samsaraha, it is life of transmigration, the transmigratory life. When you say transmigratory life, samsaraha, Vedanta helps us understand our helplessness, how helpless we are. That means we are born here we did not have any choice about being born. We were not asked before our birth whether we want to be born or not. We had no choice. A human birth there's no choiceless birth, isn't it? Whether you want a physical form, whether you want a male form or a female form, we were not asked. The choice was not given to us. Whether you want to be born in Germany or India or England or Europe or any part of the world, the place of birth was not in our choice. The parentage was not our choice. This man and this woman, this mother and father, these are our parents. We were not asked, who do you want to be born to? The parentage, there's no choice in our parentage. There's no choice in our birth. There's no choice in our place of birth. There's no choice in our time of birth. There's no choice in our body. We're just born here. We have to understand this choicelessness. We are just born here. There is no choice. And once you're born, and we have no choice about the fall of the body, one day, whoever it is, anybody's body one day will fall apart. Nobody can escape the death. Something called death is inevitable. So birth is choiceless. Death is also what? Unavoidable. We cannot decide to be alive for some more time. We cannot decide to die before the time of death. There's no death. Even people who commit suicide, there's some problem, they commit suicide. Otherwise, there's no fall of the body. We cannot control the death. And in between birth and death also, we cannot say there's one human being who goes through only pleasures in life. Whether the richest man or the poorest man, highly educated person or uneducated person, we cannot say there's one human being who goes through only pleasures in life. Every human being, irrespective of who it is, everyone has to go through pairs of opposites. Dvandvaha. You must have heard the word dvandvaha. Dvandvaha, pairs of opposites. We have no choice. The pairs of opposites. One has to go through pairs of opposites. There'll be pain, there'll be pleasure. There'll be success for some time, there'll be failure. There'll be honor, there'll be dishonor. Proportion may vary from person to person, but everyone has to go through these pairs of opposites. only I had to go through. That's not true. Everyone has to go through one's own pairs, pain and pleasure, pairs of opposites. And these pairs of opposites are of this nature that they are not permanent. When there's no pain, there's a pleasure that will come to an end. Pain will come to an end. Pleasure will come to an end. Success, there's a period when you're highly successful, that period will come to an end. We go through pain of failure will come to an end. Loss will come to an end. Gain will come to an end. Honor will come to an end. Everything will come to an end. Nothing is permanent. It changes. They come one after the other. Why? That is the nature of every situation. Every situation, desirable, undesirable, pleasant and unpleasant situations are subject to change. There's a nature means we cannot change them. What say do we have over the situations? We don't know change. So birth, death, in between pairs of opposites. Okay, once this death is, after death is not end of our problems. If death is the end of our problems, then we would have finished last death itself. People think if I die, the people who commit suicide, they think what? If I die, all my problems will come to an end. That is why they decide to die. That's why they commit a suicide. They don't know. Death is not to escape, okay? Death is only temporary rest. Temporary rest. Every day you sleep, temporary rest. You fall asleep, the whole world disappears. Relationships disappear. Near and dear disappears. Fall asleep, 6 hours, 7 hours, you're fast asleep. 8 hours, you're fast asleep. I don't think people sleep for 24 hours. Okay, there you sleep for, if you have good sound sleep for 7, 8 hours, 6 hours, those 6 hours you have rest. Temporary freedom. No pain, no pleasure, no worry, no relationship, nothing to worry. So, like how you have rest in sleep, so also you have, every day you have rest. In death also you have rest. So death is not end of our problems. Which means the problem which we are going through now is going to continue again after the death also. It has to continue after the death means how? You must be there again. You will definitely be there again. How you are now, so you will be again. Again you will be. Again you will be. Again you will be. You will be there continuously. How after every day you fall asleep, you wake up. When you're in sleep, what happens to you? Every time you fall asleep, every day you fall asleep, what happens to you? Nothing. You are fine, aren't you? You're fine in sleep. Nothing happens to you. You don't die in sleep. You don't disappear in sleep. You are very much there. Wake up again next day. So also, after death also, you will come back. How you wake up from sleep every day, day after day after day after day. You fall asleep, wake up. Fall asleep, you wake up. Falling asleep does not mean you're disappearing. Falling asleep means you are resting. You come back again. Similarly, after death also, how exactly you are in sleep, not knowing your own existence, not knowing the existence of the world, not knowing people, not knowing relationship, not knowing any difference, not knowing the distances, not knowing the differences, divisions, not knowing anything, you are just yourself in sleep. You are just yourself in sleep. Only thing is you are there not knowing you are, not knowing what you are. In sleep, every day in sleep, you are not knowing you are. You are not knowing what you are. And being there without knowing I am, without knowing what I am, means what? There is a total ignorance. This is called what? Total ignorance. If you know you are, it is half knowledge. If you know what you are, it is total knowledge. Once you wake up, you have half knowledge. If you fall asleep, even the half knowledge also goes. In fact, when the half knowledge is not there, that is called sleep. Is it clear now? I tell you what is half knowledge, what is total knowledge. Ardham jnanam, purnam jnanam. Ardha vidya, purna vidya. Now what is purnam jnanam? What is ardham jnanam? Half knowledge, partial. If you say wave, oh, wave is, you have the knowledge of the existence of the wave, isn't it? Wave is half knowledge. If you know, oh, this wave which is nothing but water, if you know, it is total knowledge. You know the existence of the wave, it is half knowledge. If you know what the wave is, it is total knowledge. Is it clear? Similarly, if you know you are, it is half knowledge. If you know what you are, it is total knowledge. So I am is half knowledge. I am is knowledge of existence of one's own self. I am the truth essentially. If you know, it's a total knowledge. But all the human beings are so blessed. We're already born, blessed with half knowledge. What is that half knowledge? We all know, every one of us know, I am. A human being is blessed with this half knowledge of existence of one's own self in terms of I am. Because of this knowledge, I am, you are called a self-conscious being. A human being is called a self-conscious being because of this knowledge of existence of the self in terms of I am. You know that you are existent. You know you are. This is half knowledge. Understand? Even though you do not know that you do not know what you are, even though you do not know what you are, still you know you are. And Upanishad comes very closely and tell you, don't be proud, you are also ignorant. And that is why we are, of all the creatures, the human being is the most sophisticated of all the creatures. And we make use of all these animals. Okay? We want companion, poor dog, dog cannot have us as companion. We have dog as a companion. And we ride on horse. Horse cannot ride on us. We use the bulls. We use the cows. Which cow comes to drink our milk? We only go and milk the cows. We use all the animals. Animals and serve us. Why? Because we have this knowledge. We are superior to the animals. In fact, of all the creatures, human being is the most sophisticated of all the beings. Why? It is purely because of this knowledge of existence of one's own self, obtaining in him a thought in terms of I am. Every human being has this knowledge I am, knowledge of existence of one's own self, which is called that is why a human being is called a self-conscious being. And this knowledge also resolves in the form of a knowledge which is obtaining in the form of a thought resolves, then there is total ignorance. The knowledge rises, half knowledge. Knowledge resolves, total ignorance. When the knowledge resolves, the knowledge I am obtaining in him of thought resolves, then there is total ignorance. It comes half knowledge. And what about other animals? No animals are programmed, they live their lives. No animal has self-consciousness, because no animal has this knowledge I am. No animal has this knowledge I am. No dog says I am a dog. No monkey says I am a monkey. No cow says I am a cow. If it happens to sin, we'll say I am German cow also. And Indian cow will say, oh, I am Indian cow, Gujarat cow. Where there is no slaughterhouse. That cow, suppose the cows happen to talk to each other, they will say, I'm a cow from Gujarat where there's no slaughterhouse. I'm very lucky. You are in a place where there's slaughterhouses. Poor house. Why I'm saying, there's no self-consciousness, there's no knowledge on the part of any animal in terms of I am. Is it clear? Because this knowledge is not there, there is total ignorance. Is it clear? It's total ignorance. Every animal remains steeped in total ignorance. It's all instinct-based life. Animal sleeps, animal wakes up, animal moves around, but there's no mind. There's no knowledge of the existence of the self on the part of any animal. No animal has this knowledge I am. Only human being has this. When you fall asleep, when this knowledge obtaining of thought resolves, that is a state of mind, okay? That is why it resolves, that is the nature. When this knowledge resolves, then there is total ignorance. In sleep, you are breathing, you are very much there. All the functions are happening, digestion is happening, everything is happening. But still, you are not knowing you are in sleep. So when you are not knowing you are, in sleep you are not eligible, qualified to know what you are. You cannot know, isn't it? I cannot teach Vedanta when you are fast asleep. You must be awake, you must be sitting in front of me, listening to me, knowing I am. Only then I can teach you, isn't it? So in sleep, there is no knowledge, half knowledge also. For a person to know what I am, first of all, there must be knowledge I am, isn't it? If there's no knowledge I am, how can you know what I am? If you do not know you are, how can you know what you are? Is it clear? Is it clear? So half knowledge is a must. That is why no animal can be taught. Even though we understand every animal is Brahma, but animal can be taught, oh dog, you are Brahma. We can understand, dog is Brahma. We can't tell the dog you are Brahma. You know why? No animal can learn. No animal can understand. Why? Animal has no knowledge. Half knowledge is not there. Animal is not a self-conscious being. Is it clear? So, animals remain steeped in total ignorance. Not knowing I am, thereby not being able to know what I am, is what's total ignorance. Every day when you fall asleep, what is what? Then there is total ignorance. Is it clear? In sleep, there's no pain, no pleasure, no unhappiness, no unpleasantness, no worry, no anxiety. And that state of mind is called what? Bliss. Understand now? Total ignorance is bliss. We are not interested in bliss. If you want bliss, experience bliss, you have to fall asleep. Now, I want to be in bliss. Put 2 tablets and fall asleep again. You will be in bliss. People use the word very carefully, casually. Bliss. I tell you, we are not interested in bliss. Whereas, what is happiness then? In dictionary, you may find both the words in the same place. But in total ignorance, there is no identity. When you know you are, only then you can have identity. I am. When the knowledge is there, then you can say, I am a human being. I am a woman. I am a man. I am an Indian. I am a German. I am French. That identity. When can you have identity? When you fall asleep, do you have any identity? In sleep, are you German or Indian? What are you in sleep? No identity. Because there's no knowledge. Identity is possible only when there is knowledge I am. Is it clear? In sleep, there's no identity. All these dramas are only when you wake up. You fall asleep, no identity. Why? There's no knowledge I am. So identity presupposes the knowledge I am. Is it clear? Now, if this knowledge, similarly, no animal has any identity. Why? In total ignorance, there is non-identity. In total ignorance, there is non-identity. In sleep, there's no identity, there's non-identity. Similarly, no animal has any identity. We give the names to animals: elephant, lion, tiger, dog, etc. We say, but no animal says, I'm an elephant. All the animal can recognize its species. So it can, as X, it can reproduce. That's all animals can do. The natural instincts, instinct-based life it lives. There's no self-consciousness. Therefore, no animal has any identity. Non-identity is there on the part of animals. Why? Because animals, there's total ignorance. They remain steeped in total ignorance. We also don't have any identity in sleep because there is total ignorance in sleep. When there's no identity, in total ignorance, there is non-identity. When there's non-identity, what you experience is bliss. Total ignorance is equal to non-identity. Non-identity is equal to experience of bliss. Is it clear? Now, in total knowledge, the scripture says, oh, we are very superior to the animals. Because animals have no knowledge. There's no identity. Okay, animals are always in bliss. Animals don't have a problem, emotional problems. No animal has any emotional problem. Animal has a physical pain, it will forget immediately. There's no such thing called a brooding over the past on the part of animal. Oh, day before he hit me, day before this. Animals, there's no such a thing called emotional pain on the part of animals. Because there's no identity, identity is not possible for any animal. Therefore, no animal has any complex also. It cannot have any notion about itself. I'm a fat dog. I had to go to gym somehow, lose my weight, look nice. You know. Go for plastic surgery because my horn is not okay. No. And I don't know, I have the problem of calling which doctor is the best doctor. Do you go to Ayurvedic doctor or allopathic doctor, or who's the best surgeon? Plastic surgery or something. What can I do to straighten my horn, which is crooked? My God, animals also queue up in the hospital. What will do? Animals have no problem. Is it? No animal has any problem. Why? Because there is no identity. Why animal has no identity? Because animal is not a self-conscious being. There is no knowledge of the existence of the self in terms of I am on the part of any animal. Is it clear? Therefore, animals have no willpower also. No animal can have, because we have this knowledge I am, there's also willpower. Will means the capacity to choose to do a given action. To do, not to do, or to do it differently. This will also is not there on the part of any animal. So no animal has any knowledge of right and wrong also. Therefore, animal has no punyam or papam. Every animal lives its life span, programmed life. Now, we human beings have this half knowledge. And this half knowledge is a blessing in disguise. You know why? If this half knowledge is not as the knowledge of existence of the self in terms of I am, is there only for in a human mind, only for a human being, something called mind itself is possible because of this knowledge of existence of the self in terms of I am. I'm talking to only about this I am today because it's very important for you to understand. So it is a blessing in this case. So what? You are eligible, you are qualified to discover what you are. Isn't it? You are eligible to know of your ignorance also. Because this knowledge I am is there, Shastram can address us and tell, you do not know that what you are. You know you are, but you do not know what you are, and you do not know that you do not know what you are, Shastram can tell us. The teacher can help you understand this. Therefore, it's a blessing. Once you come to know of your ignorance, you have the knowledge of, you're ignorant of your ignorance in the beginning. And you are eligible to have the knowledge of your ignorance. Because of this half knowledge, you are eligible to have the knowledge of your ignorance. And you are eligible, you are qualified to resolve the ignorance. You are eligible, qualified to have the knowledge of what you are. Is it clear? Human, because of this blessed knowledge, you are eligible to discover what you are. You can know what I am. What is I is. Eligible to know. So no animal is qualified to know what I is, because there's no I first of all. I must be there for it to know what it is. It is not there. Therefore, they're not qualified to know what I am. Is it clear? It's a blessing in disguise. What is the advantage of having this knowledge? Because of this knowledge, you are able to, you are eligible, qualified to know your ignorance, and thereby you are eligible to resolve your ignorance. You are able to attain the knowledge of, you can attain the knowledge of what you are. You can make your half knowledge total knowledge. When you discover what you are, your knowledge of yourself will be complete. Total knowledge. Ardha Jnanam will become Purnam Jnanam. I am is half knowledge. I itself am the truth implied by the term Brahma. I am Atma, I am Brahma, I am the reality is what? Total knowledge. Vevis is half knowledge, Vevis what is total knowledge. Is it clear? So you are qualified to make the half knowledge, convert the half knowledge into a total knowledge. When a human being converts the half knowledge into total knowledge, when you discover the truth, I am the truth, in total knowledge, you have what? You have right identity. In total ignorance, there is non-identity. In total knowledge, there is right identity. In right identity, there is happiness. In non-identity, there is bliss. Now, in the half knowledge, I told you how it is useful. The half knowledge also is a problem. So, what is the advantage of having half knowledge? You are able to know your ignorance. You are able to resolve the ignorance. You are able to attain the knowledge. But in the half knowledge, what is the problem? When the knowledge is half, you know you are, but you do not know you are because of this ignorance of not knowing what you are. What happens now? Isn't it? There's no distance between, isn't it? There's no distance between you, the knower, and the known mind. What happens? You mistake what you are not for yourself. Isn't it? The non-self is mistaken for the self. The non-self is mistaken for the self. And however far the mind is associated with, so far you have identity. You mistake the mind for the self. And because of the mind, you mistake the sense organs for the self. And because you, again, as the body, you mistake the body for the self. Why only this one, not here? The mind is associated, isn't it? Only until this body. Thank God it doesn't go to anything else. Therefore, identity stops here. You mistake the physical body is a purely elemental. It is nothing but a modified form of the food eaten by your parents. It is born of the food essence, born of the food essence of our parents. And it is afterwards, it is sustained by the food, it's growing by food, bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's good for the food. And one fine day, it will fall apart, gets disintegrated into food in the form of soil. This is the body, isn't it? And you say, when you say, I am, that is beautiful knowledge. Obtaining in the form of a thought, which rises and goes. Am. But this I am is identified with this body. Body, you place the I sense in the body. Dehe Atma Buddhi. Then you have your own, I am fat, I am relatively right, absolutely wrong. I am fat, I am thin, I am tall, I am Indian, I am German, I am fair, I am dark, all this. So, your identity is with the body. Then identity is with the mind. Identity is with the sense organs. Identity is with the physiological functions also. My God. Whatever is here, this I is identified with everything. It's not that you want to identify, okay? You are helpless. We are helpless. Why? Because this I is not distant from the body, mind, sense complex. If there is a distance between the two, then you will not mistake. This is different, this is different, isn't it? There's no distance. There's no distance between water and the wave form. Understand? Similarly here, the identity, because there's no distance between this truth, I, the truth, and the mind, the sense organs, the body. So here, identity comes. Not following? Is it clear? Then not only the identity is with the body, even the identity is with the physiological functions also. Therefore, hunger is, thirst is. We don't say, I am, body is. I am, fatness of the body is. I am, tallness of the body is. We don't say that. I am, the body is, means perfect. But we won't say that I am fat. The fatness of the body is superimposed upon the I because of the identity. When I am, the hunger is, we don't say, I am hungry, we say, the hunger is superimposed upon the I. So, I am deafness is, we don't say, I am deaf. I am, mental disturbance is. I am, confusion is. I am pain is. I am jealousy is. I am hatred is. We don't say that. We identify with every emotion. I am fear is. We don't say that, oh, there's a fear. We don't say, I am fear is. I am frightened. I am jealous. I hate. I am envious. I am upset. I am sad. We don't say, I am sadness is. No. I am sad. Which means this I sense obtaining in the form of a thought is identified with the body. Okay? How is this I sense with the body, mind, sense complex here? There's a the gross physical body. There's a subtle aspects indwelling the body, mind, sense organs, physiological functions, organs of actions, all the thoughts, isn't it, which form the mind, intellect, memory, ego, etc. So this I am is one thought. It's like if we take this plant, the plant has what? The leaves are there, flower is there, stamen is there, roots are there. The whole plant, isn't it? So root is part of the plant. Root is part of the plant, but root is not the other parts. Isn't it? Similarly, I is what? Part of the whole individual. There are many aspects which constitute the individual. Every individual human being is not just the body alone, that's the mind alone. Body, mind, sense organs, organs of actions, physiological functions, and different organs, all of them with the I sense obtaining in the form of thought, the mind put together is what? A human being. It's a composition of many aspects. And all these many aspects put together is this human being. And there, one most subtlest, most intangible, inexplicably subtle aspect is what? The most important is what? The knowledge of the existence of self obtaining in the thought in terms of I. When children give some chocolate, they say no. Some ice cream, I. Children will get excited. When people get excited, expression of excitement is what? Do you know that? In fact, I is the most exciting thing in the world. I is the most exciting thing. There's nothing in the world is excitement for me, really, for any sannyasi, for a Vedanti. Nothing in the world is exciting. There's no excitement other than no self. Okay? For this I. And this I is what now? Is identified with every other aspect. If the root, it's like saying the root is mistaken to be, the leaf is mistaken to be the root, the stem is mistaken to be the root, every aspect, okay? They're all part of this. That here this I is the most intangible, subtlest, because you can't see through the I. I is knowledge. I is a manifest knowledge, obtaining in the form of a thought. And this knowledge, thought resolves, thought comes. Thought resolves, thought comes. The thought is, there is identity. The thought resolves, no identity. In sleep, no identity. The thought is, and this thought is identified with the body, identified with the mind, identified with the sense organs, identified with the physiological functions. Okay? It's wrong identity. So everything is mistaken to be I. Body is mistaken to be I. Mind is mistaken to be I. And this mistaking, error in the perception, okay? The mistaking this non-self for this self. Self for other than what it is not is called adhyasaha. Erroneous self-perception. How you see yourself through what? You see yourself through your body, mind, sense organs. Understand? And then what happens? All the limitations. The body has its own problems and limitations. The nature. And mind has its own limitations. Mind has its attributes. The sense organs have their own problems. All their attributes are superimposed upon the I. This is called adhyaropaha. Once superimposed, what now? Then you have a notion. Notion again is nothing but a thought. Notion of about the world or about the self is also in the form of a thought only. There is a notion every human being entertains about oneself. Image, self-image. There's a notion you have about yourself. And I have a notion. And it's a common notion also. All the human beings have this common notion. Because of the ignorance of what this I is, not knowing what this I is, this I is mistake. I is identified with all other aspects. And all other aspects are taken to be the I, and their problems are taken to be the problems of I, superimposed upon I. Then what happens? There's a notion in the form of the thought. What is the notion? Again, it's also thought only. I am a mortal. I'm going to die one day. I'm going to die. I am going to die. I am a mortal. Then I am inadequate. There's a sense of inadequacy centered on I. I am inadequate in terms of knowledge. I'm inadequate in terms of money. So I am small in terms of looks, in terms of knowledge, in terms of influence, in terms of strength, in terms of position. I'm small. I'm inadequate. In terms of possession, I'm small. I'm inadequate. I'm insignificant. I am unhappy. The common human notions. All the human beings have these notions. Not only one human being. Only I have, others don't have. That's not true. All the human beings have these notions about the self. Because of the wrong identity. Because of the superimposition of limitations of non-self, the body mind complex upon the I. And these notions are all wrong notions. Isn't it true? The right notion or wrong notion? Wrong notions. And because of this wrong notion alone, what happens? There is a sense of smallness, sense of inadequacy centered on I, and this is the common human fundamental problem. This is the common human fundamental problem. Why? Because not only one human being, all the human beings in India, human beings in the world, any part of the world, all the entire humanity has this problem. Okay? So with reference to this particular problem, all of us are sailing in the same boat. There's nobody is an exception here. Common human fundamental problem. And with this problem, because of this alone, there's a strong, deep-rooted notion that I am a mortal, I am small. And it is this notion which gives rise to, something called need. The sense of inadequacy centered on I is the reason, the cause for the desire. The need, actually, need. What is the need? Common human fundamental desire. The common human fundamental desire is an emotional need. Something called emotional need comes. So it's a physical need. Now, I want coffee, I want tea, I want food. Means I want, because I'm hungry. Not believe it. See, hunger is what? We have not created the hunger. We have not created the hunger. We have not created the thirst. So we cannot undo them. We can destroy the hunger and thirst. They are natural biological needs, physical needs. So you have to address. You can't say. Natural urge is different from cultivated desire. I come to Germany and I see this. Oh, Eva, this is nice. Until I saw this, I never had desire for this. After coming here, after seeing this, oh, I like this candle stand. Let me buy one. Understand? I come to know such a stand is available. Then, after seeing it, I develop a desire for it. Before I saw that, I did not know such a thing exists in the world. Then there's no desire. So after seeing something, after coming to know something, when I develop a desire for something, such a desire is called cultivated desire. So cultivated desire can be fulfilled, need not be fulfilled. If I buy, I can buy. If I don't buy, am I going to die? No, I can still, oh, it's very expensive, I don't want to buy. I can leave it also. Is it clear what I'm saying? Cultivated desire can be fulfilled or need not be fulfilled. It's not going to do any harm. I want this candle stand is a cultivated expression of cultivated desire. Whereas 2 o'clock, I want to eat something. Means what? It's not cultivated desire. It's a natural urge. Do you understand? It's very important to distinguish, differentiate. What is the cultivated desire? What is the natural urge? So, I want to eat is an expression of natural urge, physical, biological need. I want a glass of water. Is expression of biological need, physical need, natural urge. Is it clear? I want to go to the temple, his temple near the hill. That's a cultivated desire. After I met him, after I came to know there's a temple nearby in the hill, etc., I developed cultivated desire. So cultivated desires can be fulfilled, need not be fulfilled. But natural urges have to be fulfilled. We cannot undo the natural urges. Is it clear? Similarly here, I want to be happy. I want to be happy always. I want to be happy everywhere. I want to be happy with everybody. I want to live long. I want to live long happily. This is a common human fundamental desire obtaining in the form of a thought. And this desire is expression of what? Emotional need. Just as I want food is expression of natural physical urge, I want to live long happily. I want to be happy always, everywhere, with everybody. I want to be limitlessly happy. Okay? The expression of this desire is a common human fundamental desire. The expression of what? Emotional need. Natural emotional urge. Is it clear now? So can we undo that? It is not I want to be happy. I want to be happy always. I want to be happy everywhere. I want to live long. I want to live long happily. Is not a cultivated desire. It is a natural urge. But it's a natural emotional urge. Got it? What is, just as natural physical urge you understood, similarly natural emotional urge. Why this? What is that? What causes this urge? It is because there is a, isn't it? There is a fundamental problem of sense of inadequacy, sense of smallness, sense of insecurity centered on I. There's a wrong notion. I am a mortal. There's a wrong notion. I am unhappy is a wrong notion. They're all notions you have about yourself. All of us have these wrong notions about the self. Yeah, that we want to have these wrong notions. Please understand, Shastram Shastram relieves us of all the guilt we have. It's all natural. The notions are very natural. Mistake is very natural. Ignorance is very natural. Is it clear? So, Shastram only helps us understand how everything is here. What is here. So because of this urge, that is why I want to live long happily. I want to be happy always, everywhere. Expression of natural emotional urge we cannot undo. We have to fulfill, we have to address this problem. Understand? And because of this is a common human fundamental desire. So need results in sense of inadequacy, centered on I results in the need. And need results in what? Desire. Desire itself is what? Expression of emotional need. Then this one fundamental, this desire alone is the root desire from which all the desires arise. Now tell me, are we creating the desire? Desire also is another subtle phenomenon obtaining in the form of a thought. Desire just rises. Can we undo our desires? Are we creating our desires? Desires are very natural phenomenon. We are not creating, we cannot undo the desire, we cannot give up the desire, we can push the desire away, oppress the desire, suppress the desire, we cannot do anything. Desire for anything rises. Desire for apple, desire for this, desire for that. Any desire for anything in the world is expression of, symptom of the disease of fundamental desire, of wanting to be happy always, everywhere, with everybody. Any desire is a symptom of the disease of the fundamental desire of wanting to live long happily. So all the desires crop up. And what is the nature of the desire? The desires come, we are driven by the desires, impelled by the desires, we do actions. Now understand, performance of any action, any movement is expression of the desire. And desire is what? Any desire, cultivated desire or an urge is expression of, symptom of the fundamental desire. The fundamental desire is caused by the fundamental problem of smallness, inadequacy, insecurity centered on I. That is because of the wrong notions we have about the self. So any wrong notion you have about the self, I am is knowledge. I am small, I am inadequate, I am insecure. They're all notions, isn't it? The wrong notion you have about yourself is what? Ahankara. Ego. Is it clear now? What is aham asmi is knowledge. Aham fat asmi is what? Notion. Ahankara. Anything you add to I am is what? The notion. Erroneous notion you entertain about yourself. Is it clear? Therefore, that is why when you do action, you do that and do this and do this, so much we try to do. You change the place, go and live there, go and come live here, travel and tour and eat and cook and work and go for parties and attend music and then do dance, to tables and pilgrimage. Doing so many things we do. So many things we do. We don't know what to do. So we do something or other we do. We end up doing something or the other. Something or other, do something or the other. That is why nobody can remain even for a fraction of a second without doing anything. Why? Because we are not completely, the whole system is governed by what? Our mind, the disease, the needs. Understand? And when we do, we may do right action, we may do wrong action, we may not do then the result action produces the result. And all results are not exhausted immediately. So results remain some results remain unexhausted. And to exhaust the result, again we have to be born. Is it clear now? And once you go, again you have to come back. I'll tell you afterwards that other thing. What I want to say here, how it is. And we have this punya papas accumulated, and we die again ignorant. Again you come back with the punya papa to exhaust. Next session I'll talk to you about karma. And also ignorance, ajnanam, erroneous self-perception, adhyasa, superimposition of limitations of non-self upon the self, adhyaropaha. There be a wrong notion you have about yourself, ahankara. And there's a fundamental problem of sense of smallness, sense of inadequacy centered on I, isn't it? And thereby, that is so. See now, what is the root cause of the desire? Also ignorance. That is why Shastram never says it is wrong to have desires. it is not wrong to have desires. Is it clear? It is very natural for anyone to have any desire. So desires, you cannot undo desires, give up desires. But Shastram teaches us how to manage desires. But we have to manage desires. We have to manage. That we'll see later on. And desires result in actions. And actions produce results. Punya Papa. Understand now? And the results have to be exhausted. To exhaust the results, we have to be born again. So it is continuous. Is it clear now? So how this half ignorance is the root cause of being born again. Is it clear now? Half ignorance is the root cause of being born again. So the ignorance continues to be there in every janma after janma after janma. Ignorance is there. As long as his half ignorance is there, half knowledge is there, there's a time this body has to fall apart. How you change your bulb sometimes, no? Nothing happens to electricity. Sometimes the bulb, very nice bulb, comes new, brand new bulb, 3 months and 6 months and after that, one day, bulb fuses. Okay? And you have to change the bulb. Nothing happens to electricity, isn't it? Power. Similarly, you have to change the bulb. Understand? But electricity again, what before, when the bulb is not there, electricity as though it is not there. You can't recognize the electricity. You know? But we think when the bulb is not there, we may mistake because there is no electricity. Electricity still passes. There is no bulb. So you can't, electricity cannot express itself. And when you put a new bulb, if the electricity is not there, a bulb will be what? It can't glow, isn't it? Because the electricity, when they put the bulb, it glows. Similarly, you are there continuously. When the new body comes, it has life. We'll talk about it later on again. Okay? Now what I want to say, this is how it is there. I want you to understand how ignorance, we don't need to be guilty, you don't need to be hurt, you don't need to find fault anything. Being born a human being, amazing Veda Shastram, helps us understand how the whole situation is here. We don't need to blame God here. Understand? And so now please tell me, in total ignorance, wrong identity, non-identity, therefore there's bliss. In half ignorance and half knowledge, there is wrong identity. Understand? But when you study Shastram, and when you understand how I is distinct from the body, mind, sense complex, even though I is not distant, but still distinct, and this I which is distinct from the rest of the aspects which form the human being, and the rest of the aspects are all objects of knowledge here. I is the source of knowledge. You know? I is the knowledge. And the truth of I is this all pervasive, only abstract, formless reality obtaining in the form of pure consciousness, pure knowledge. The Shastra study, when we repeatedly listen and understand and reflect upon and assimilate, definitely how clearly wave is nothing but water, And that water, the truth of the wave, is the only truth of the entire ocean and all the waves also. Like that, understand the truth of this I is actually the all-pervasive abstract reality, pure knowledge, pure consciousness, implied by the term Brahma. Therefore, wave is water. Similarly, I am Brahma. I am the truth when you discover. Knowledge is total. No? In total knowledge, the wrong error in the notion gets corrected. I am small goes. I itself am a limitless reality. The wrong error in the notion gets corrected. In the wake of knowledge of what I am, the error is corrected. Then there is right identity. Wave has to be identified with the water, isn't it? Not the other wave. So I is to be identified with Brahma, limited, limitless. Is it clear now? So in knowledge, in total knowledge, there is right identity. In right identity, what is fullness. What is happiness. So now you can differentiate bliss from happiness. In total ignorance, there is non-identity. When non-identity, there is bliss. In half knowledge, half ignorance, there is wrong identity. Then you go through both pain and pleasure. When you have half knowledge and half ignorance, you go through what? There's wrong identity. When you have wrong identity, you have both pain and pleasure. Is it clear? In total knowledge, you have right identity, there's only happiness. So you have to understand, when happiness is not a state of mind, is not object of experience. Happiness is not an object of experience. Happiness is your Swarupam, very nature of yourself as the reality. Is it clear now? Whereas, that is when, in total knowledge, in right identity, you discover what is happiness. Fullness. You cannot become full. You cannot become bigger than what you are. Already you are fullness. Already you are fullness. Is it clear? Whereas in half knowledge, half ignorance, you have wrong identity. In wrong identity, you experience pain and pleasure. So pain and pleasure are objects of experience, obtaining in the form of a thought. When you go through the experience, when you have wrong identity, when you have half ignorance and half knowledge. In total knowledge, you take ownership of happiness as your real nature, which is not an experience. Understand? In right identity, in total knowledge, there is happiness. In total ignorance, in non-identity, there is bliss. Bliss also is painlessness. Happiness also is painlessness, sorrowlessness. But this bliss is not permanent. Bliss is a state of mind which is there for a length of time. Undergo change. Again, you have to go through pain and pleasure. Whereas happiness is not a state of mind. It doesn't come and go, which never came. Happiness was there before knowledge also, in ignorance also. It was not known. Now happiness is there now also. After jnanam also. Happiness doesn't come and go. The happiness is permanent. Is it clear? That is why the real Vedanta teacher never accepts the word bliss as equivalent to happiness. Now you can decide whether you want happiness or bliss. If you want bliss, I want you to sleep now. After lunch, I'll probably fall asleep. If you want happiness, be awake to listen to the class. Is it clear? See, it's a very subtle lesson, subtle teaching, lot of teaching. It's all Puja Swamiji so beautifully he teaches in the very beginning itself. People come and just take a text and just teach something, saying you are consciousness, I'm consciousness, you will go. The clarity doesn't come. You see what I'm saying? So I have to spend so much of time to make you see difference. Is it clear now? Yeah. So we'll continue Samsara next class and we'll conclude with the Mrityunjay mantra class. Okay? We have one more mantra today, afternoon. Then after the next class, after the Mrityunjay mantra class, then we all together, we can go to temple. I'll take you all to the temple today. Okay? Go to temple. I can just show certain things, what it is, symbolizes, etc. I can tell you. If I like it. If you don't like, I don't want to force you. It's okay? Okay, this lesson is over. Om. Therefore, it is said, all human misery, all the human suffering, all the human problems are symptoms of the common human fundamental problem. Different human beings have different problems. All the different problems of different human beings are caused by one common human fundamental problem of sense of smallness, sense of inadequacy, sense of smallness centered on I, and which is caused, what root cause of that fundamental problem is? Ignorance. Understand? So, in knowledge, ignorance will resolve. When ignorance goes, ignorance caused, problem resolves. When the problem resolves, isn't it? You don't need to push aside anything. Everything will resolve. And what is only fullness, happiness. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.